everybody. It's 9 a.m. on April 27th, 2023, and we will call this Board of Directors meeting of the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley to order. If you would all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Becky, if we can have a roll call, please.
Board Member De Leon is absent. Board Member Ward.
Present.
Board Member Flores.
I'm kind of sort of here, yes.
Good morning. Board Member Macias is absent. Board Member Coran.
Present.
Board Member Shaylo Hernandez.
Present.
Board Member Gandara.
Here.
Chair Sanchez.
Present.
And Board Member Macias is entering the chambers. We do have a quorum.
All right, then we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is changes to the agenda and approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda, please.
Chair Sanchez, may I offer up a recommendation?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I am wanting to table the action item B, Resolution 2023-04, amend the ASCMV fiscal year 24 budget. I believe there is a budget adjustment that is coming to us, and after speaking to Barbara De Leon, there is numerous concerns about it, and I think we need to table it until Clint is here and we have that conversation as the executive and the finance committee. I understand that that particular budget adjustment did not go through the finance committee. And
Correct.
we're recommending that it does.
Correct. So I too second that, or well, I don't know what the correct, but I think that it has to be tabled. Thank you.
Okay, so Councilor Corn, I know you had a motion on the floor. Would you be okay with either amending that to, with Mayor Pro Tem's suggestion?
I move we approve the budget by
Or with I guess approve the agenda without agenda item 7B?
I move we do that, which is not tabling, I guess, just removing.
I guess what we'd have to table, I guess,
action
do we have to have a motion, approve the agenda and then table?
Right. So I second the motion. Second the motion to the agenda. Well, the motion was to approve, and so that kind of falls in a gray area procedurally or parliamentary.
So we just need to approve the agenda without, or with the removal of action item 7B.
Correct.
I amend my prior recommendation to approve and to include the removal of action item B.
And I second
7B.
that.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda with the removal of 7B, and we have a second.
Second by Flores.
Okay, we have a second by Councilor Flores. Are there any comments on the agenda? Okay.
I just have a quick question about the thing that we just tabled.
Yes.
This is amending the budget that we approved, right, last time?
I believe what, the way, Mayor Pro Tem, you'll have to correct me, the way I understand it is, I think the concern is that there might be some there could be potential amendments to that budget, but it would have to go through the Finance Committee first before coming back to the Board of Directors for approval.
So it doesn't affect the fact that we already approved the budget, right? So it would be an amendment in the future, because for the city, we can't, it's already in the budget thing, and the next meeting will be after.
Correct. So this would just be, I think the things that we've approved would be just the preliminary budget, and then we will come back later to approve the final budget.
If we don't approve the final budget, I thought we approved the final budget at the last meeting? We did?
No, we made they presented a budget, we had our recommendations back, and if you recall, and thank goodness Barbara is here, if you recall, you, Judge Macias, advocated for the $15, right? That budget included $14.50, is my understanding. So if that was the case, then that budget as it was presented to us does not include the $15.
Madam Chair, just as a point of information, although you don't debate a tabling motion, if that was where we're still at. But nevertheless, just as information, Clint had come to make a presentation to the County Commission related to the budget. And we had discussed with the Commission that there would be a need for an additional $24,000, I believe is what was identified, in order to bring the $14.50 up to $15. And the County Commission voted to support an increase of, which would be half of that amount, $12,000. So if that's the only item that is changed from the prior budget, and I don't know that that's the case, but if it's literally $24,000 above what this board had already previously approved, then I, for one, don't think it's worth having to go through the whole process again if that's the only movement in the budget.
And I guess my question is, or my point is, if we table this till our next ASCMV meeting, that will be after the city approves our budget, so then the budget will not be submitted on time to the city.
Well,
correct?
It can be submitted, and again, the city council can amend into the budget or into the budget request the additional $12,000 in order to accomplish the $15 an hour.
Thank you. And if I may add, Board, so just as reading through the minutes from April 7th, we did have a motion to approve the budget at that time as proposed, and it was approved. So we do have a budget.
Okay.
So this would be, I guess, this would be obviously as the resolution 2023-04 says, to amend the budget. So at least now, like I said, if we need to amend at the next meeting, whatever it may be, we do have a budget going into this fiscal year. We can make our amendments, and I think as the county manager is suggesting, we should be able to, at some point, amend both the city and the county's budgets as necessary.
That's what I was hoping for clarification on, so thank you. I just wanted to confirm that was what was happening.
Ms. De Leon, and sorry, Dr. Haddon, I see you up, so let me go to Board Member De Leon, and then we'll come back to you. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chair. I appreciate it. So my recommendation was going to be to adopt within the budget the amount that the board had approved at the April 7th meeting. If there is a need to make a budget adjustment for the going from $14.50 to $15 an hour once we're in FY24, then we will need a budget adjustment at that time. However, we could monitor the budget to make that determination as to whether that was necessary. But to me, what I was recommending to our budget group within our finance department is to adopt the number that was aligned with the approval this board made, or the recommendation that this board made at the April 7th meeting. I wasn't aware of the discussion at the county commission, and going forward, I am making a recommendation to Clint that any budget adjustments that come to this board first go through the finance committee. We met last week, and this wasn't a discussion item, so it was a surprise to me when I saw this item on the agenda, and then just trying to get information about it has been a little bit difficult. So I think we'll be fine to adopt the budget recommended by this board, and then just monitor the budget for any adjustments necessary within FY24.
Okay, and I think that, and just for, and again, I follow you. Thank you, Ms. De Leon. I just looking through, and I know this was exactly the motion was only to amend the budget by $24,000, but I think the point to have any budget adjustments going through the Finance Committee is well taken, so I think I can support, I think, the amendment, at least for now, to table, or at least approve the agenda without this, the resolution on here. Sorry, Dr. Haddon?
Yes, sorry. I was going to try to provide some clarification, but y'all got through it. That my understanding was that the budget was approved and that this was an amendment to the approved budget that we were trying to get in order to get up to the $15 an hour as Mr. Macias had requested. So that was...
Mr. Chairman, again, if it caused some consternation, then I should make the apology. But this board recommends, but that's all it is. It recommends a budget that it believes is appropriate. So at that point, it leaves the jurisdiction of this board, and it goes to the City Council and to the County Commission. So for adoption into their respective budgets. So it was an item on the County Commission budget. We discussed it. I'm the one that raised it with the commission in terms of still attempting, after I got clarification as to the amount of money that would be necessary to take the employees up to $15 an hour. And I think that this board knows that I've been advocating for that, so I didn't feel that it was out of line. And I think that there's a great deal of sympathy, if not outright support, for that goal. So when the County Commission took action to agree to increase our contribution by the additional $12,000, we had suggested that Mr. Thacker come back and have that conversation with the city, but at kind of the city council level, or staffing the budget process. So if there was some breach of protocol on my part for initiating it at the county commission level, then I apologize for that. But I think the intent was to still carry out what was hopefully the overall majority position here on the board.
Thank you.
So if maybe I should have just immediately called Barbara and said, we're putting in another 12,000. Can you talk to the city council about an additional contribution as well?
Thank you, Mr. Macias. Ms. De Leon?
Thank you, Chair, and also Judge Macias. So I just want to emphasize, too, that this determination to enter the budget as it was approved or recommended by this board on April 7th won't prohibit us from moving forward from actually implementing that change with respect to the $15 an hour base wages. It will just require us to monitor the budget as to whether or not we actually need an amendment in the FY24 fiscal year. Because as you know, with fluctuations in expenditures, whether they're from vacancies or projects that are not moving forward or whatnot, we may or may not need that additional $24,000 to be added to the budget. But that's just part of budget management. We can move forward with implementation.
Okay, thank you, Ms. De Leon. Thank you, Mr. Macias. So I think unless there's any other comments, I know we have a motion on the floor still to approve the agenda without resolution 2023-04 in this agenda. If there are no other comments at this time, I'll ask for a roll call of the approval.
Board Member Macias? Approval of the agenda, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Flores?
Yes.
Board Member Corran?
Yes.
Board Member Shaylos Hernandez?
Yes.
Board Member Gondara?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. All right, so we are on now. Thank you for, we're on to agenda item 4A, which is the approval of the minutes from ASCMV March 3rd, 2023 work session. If I can get a motion in a second for approval.
So moved, Gandara.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Gondara. Is there a second? I will.
Second, Corin.
Seconded by Councilor Corn. Are there any comments? Input? Okay, if I can get a roll call, please, on agenda item 4A.
Board Member Macias?
Yes.
Board Member Flores?
I have to abstain. I was not present. Thank you.
Board Member Coran,
Yes.
Board Member Sheila Hernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Gondara,
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Now we're on to agenda item 4B, which is the approval of the minutes from the regular ASCMV board meeting held on March 23rd, 2023. If I can get a motion and a second for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez,
Seconded by Corin.
seconded by Councilor Corn. Thank you. Are there any comments, amendments, changes? Hearing none. If I can get a roll call on that agenda item, please.
Board Member Macias,
Yes.
Board Member Flores,
I have to abstain, I was not present.
Board Member Coran,
Yes.
Board Member Sheila Hernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Gondara.
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to agenda item 4C, which is the approval of the minutes from the ASCMV March 30th, 2023 work session. If I can get a motion and a second on that item, please.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez.
Seconded by Corin.
Second, thank you, Councilor Corn, on the second. Are there any comments, changes? All right, if we can get a roll call on agenda item 4C, please.
Board Member Macias,
Yes.
Board Member Flores,
Abstention.
Board Member Coran,
Yes.
Board Member Sheila Hernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Gondara,
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, now to agenda item 4D, which is the approval of the minutes from the ASCMV April 7th, 2023 special meeting. If I get a motion and a second on those minutes, please.
So moved. Shaljo Hernandez.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Seconded Corin.
We have a second by Councilor Corn. Okay, are there any comments, input, changes? It's all right, hearing and seeing none. If I can get a roll call on agenda item 4D, please.
Board Member Macias,
Yes.
Board Member Flores,
Yes.
Board Member Coran,
Yes.
Board Member Sheila Hernandez,
Yes.
Board Member Gondara,
Yes.
Chair Sanchez. Motion passes.
Yes. All right, now we're on to our reports and presentations. We're on to the 5A, which is the Coalition for Pets and People presentation by Cruces Cool Cats. Ms. Cardosa. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I love your T-shirt, by the way. So cute. Yeah, love it.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and this is my mother, Selena Cardoza. We are both, my name is Joseph, and this is my mother, Selena Cardoza, and we both are with Cruces Cool Cats, and this is our logo.
Cruces Cool Cats has been officially registered with the state on October 2020, and we bought our first cat, at the cat house, February 2021.
Our Cruces Cool Cats mission statement is to improve the quality of life of our community's homeless cats with the cats and kittens by medically treating them, socializing and providing food in a nurturing environment until we're able to find a forever home for all of our adoptable cats. Also to reduce the feral cat population through the TNR Trap, Neuter, and Release program, and every opportunity to educate our community on the importance of taking care of the cats, spaying and neutering.
And although we would like to help every cat, our focus is our feral cat population. Here's a couple of things that we have done for the community.
On a weekly basis, we help our community with our TNR programs and anyone who's interested in helping out their community. So far, we have fixed over 220 cats.
We also have gone into overpopulated cat houses. We intake, fix, and domesticated feral or unsocialized cats. In total, we have gone into 3 homes and saved over 60 cats.
We take in feral mama cats with their litters until their kittens are weaned off from the mother, and then we fix and release the mama cat back to their owners, and we try to adopt out the rest of the litters. And so far, we've rescued over 25 mama cats with litters and 9 orphan litters.
We also take in adoptable cats from the shelter, and we rehome them at our sanctuary. Currently, we have 35 unsocialized or unadoptable cats that we're still working with in hopes to adopt them out as a pet or as a working cat.
And then meet my mother. She is our founder and president of Cruce's Cool Cats. She also has 2 full-time jobs and helps fund and cleans out with the house.
And this is Joseph Lucero. He's a full-time DACC student as well as a part-time worker and a full-time caregiver at the cat house. He works with adoptions, the TNR process. He goes out into the community to talk about responsibly owning a cat or TNRing, trapping cats. Thanks.
And then some of the other board members that are not present with us, we have Nadine, who is our vice president, Jesse, who's our treasurer, and then we also have Caesar, who's also just another member.
Since we have opened, we have TNR'd and rescued 463 cats and counting.
And then we've also, I think we discussed this, but we've went over to 3 houses with cat homes.
Are you this one or? Oh, that's you.
And then, I'm sorry, overcrowding at our sanctuary, we've been really focusing on trying to adopt our cats and helping out the community with the TNRs. We currently have 86 cats at our location.
If we forgot to put in a slide, if you want to check us out on our website, it's crucescoolcats.org. We also have social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Any questions?
Okay, are there, Mr. County Manager, oh, sorry, we'll do County Manager Macias and then Councilor Flores.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Do you help residents capture feral cats in order to have them spay or neutered?
So yes, my mother would keep in contact with people around the community, and we would schedule a time whenever we can get them fixed at the animal shelter, and I would be the one to call them, find a time when I can drop the traps off. I'll show them how the whole process works, what they need to do, and then once they do trap the cat, I would bring the go pick up the cat. We would take it back to our location until ready for the surgery. We'll tell them what we expect from them, and after that, I would release the cat back to them, and then also signing with paperwork with that too.
Oh, wonderful. Was there a phone number in terms of how to reach you or your mother?
Yes, it'll be on our website.
On your website?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Macias. Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for being here today and presenting. I'm really in awe, and it's quite apparent by the pictures you have that you really take care of the cats. The pictures are so adorable. It looks like they're just lined up eating, all of them, and then they're all on their little tiers. So are you a 501c3?
Yes, we are.
And how long have you, since 2020, and then you purchased the house in 2021?
Mm-hmm. 2020 is when we were registered with the state as a 501c3, and then we were collecting cats by then at that time at my house, but when we bought a home for the cat sanctuary, that's when we started taking everything in.
Yes.
I just want to thank you so very much. Brought tears to my eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flores. Councilor Corn.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I'm looking at your webpage, and it looks like you can potentially donate via PayPal there, so thank you. I was going to ask you first how we can help support you, and then the other part is, I don't know what your major is at the ACC, or if you want to take a class with that.
Yes.
You can look me up. I'll see you next in the fall, hopefully.
Yes, my major right now is currently hotel tourism and restaurant management, just trying to learn how to become a manager.
Awesome.
I actually might start a cat cafe.
That would be, we would all be in for that, but please let me know if you ever need anything at DACC. I would be happy to help you out too.
Sure
So.
will.
Thank you, Councilor Court. Mayor Pro Tem Ganda.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation and for all your service to our community. Everybody knows we have a feral cat problem in our community, and I feel it sometimes at different times it gets worse. I know we've had our issues in our little neighborhood, and it's been a topic of District 1 meeting issues, if you will. So appreciate that. Now, do you actually assist the neighbors in the cats, or do you, if someone said, hey, I need a cat trap, would you provide that to them, and then like an exchange of traps, or how does that work specifically?
So we own about 10 traps, so
Okay.
we do lend them out. We do have people who already have traps, but just don't have the time or the money to fix the cat, so they would ask us if they can help us out.
Now, are you working with you mentioned the center and scheduling for neutering and such. Do you work with other 501c3s that might have the ability to do that, the neutering much more quickly? Maybe more my question is, how quickly are we turning around the neutering for you? Because it matters, right? We have to make sure we do that and do it quickly enough so that we're not populating, right, the neighborhood. So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So with the TNR program that we work with is with the shelter. So we have so many slots every week. And so on a weekly basis, contacting people, him going to their house, educating, getting there 2 days before, picking up the cats. And I have 2 full-time jobs. He has full-time school and work.
Yeah.
Between us two, it's very difficult just for that once a week. So we haven't reached out to other 503Cs, 501c3s, sorry.
It's okay.
Because I think once a week right now is all we can do right at this time.
Got you. Okay. All right. Thank you again very much for your efforts. We really appreciate it. And now that this is going to be, it's live streamed but recorded, and people can see it and get the information. And I love what you're doing. So appreciate you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I'm sorry to answer the other question. We do hand out traps with no charge. We haven't had them stolen or damaged at this time, so we haven't done any charges. We just hand them out and just ask to bring them back.
Good. And I guess one last question. What are your needs? What do you need?
Everything.
Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean? Can you give
On our website, we actually do have a tab for donations list.
Okay.
So if you want to look under that,
Okay.
it would just be like small little things. I mean, we always go through a lot of towels, especially cleaning with the cats, and litter and food also does help out too.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you for pointing that out. I think when Councilor Corrin had mentioned the website, I was trying to figure out and see how it was laid out, and I see here on the very right side you have the wish list. So. Yes. Thank you, and I think as Mayor Pro Tem Gondara had mentioned, it's hopefully people will, be able to watch this and know how they can donate. I really appreciate everything that you all do here in the community, especially for these cats. I think especially for when you come into these homes that have so many, and the efforts. I think seeing the pictures as you went through the slides, it's all I can say is thank you, because it's such hard work, and those situations are just all of a sudden, it's like a huge, there's so many cats that can be involved with it. So thank you for everything that you do with the cats and the population for the community and working with the ASCMV. Appreciate you coming to present to us and inform us, so that way we get to learn of another great organization, because without a doubt, the ASCMV and the county, the city, we wouldn't be able to do, all of our efforts would be for naught, or we wouldn't be able to keep up with it if it wasn't with members of the community like you. So thank you all so much. Are there any other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you so much for coming and taking time out of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
It was a very cool presentation.
Yes. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 5B, which is the city and county ACO reports. One of these days, I want to see you guys do like a paper, rock, scissors to see who goes first.
It's okay, we discuss it before it even starts, so.
Thank you, Mr. Halsey. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the rest of the board. My name is Brian Halsey. I'm here to present the Donana County Animal Control monthly report. This is for the March 2023. For March, we had 299 reported stray animals. We were able to pick up 209 stray animals. It resulted in 58 stray cats and 151 stray dogs. That number usually starts to go up around this time of year because it starts to get hotter and the dogs start roaming more, so we end up getting more dogs than cats. We had 14 sick or injured animals. We had 9 cats and 5 dogs, and we had 19 owners surrendered animals, and they were all dogs. This is our 4-year comparison chart for our reported strays. As you can see, from this year to last year, it's around the same, and that trend usually stays if you look through all the 4-year comparison. We had for our return to owners in field, this is if animals were picked up within the field and we were able to find IDs on the animals or the owners, and we were able to give them back to them in the field so they don't have to go to the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley. We were able to pick up 28 for return to owners. Our additional animals picked up, we had no cats, we had 19 dogs for owner surrenders. For sick and injured animals, we had 14. We had 1 welfare hold. For the new board members, that's welfare holds are usually when the Border Patrol or the sheriffs or anybody that picks up someone for detainment and they have animals, we usually do a welfare hold at the shelter for them, so that way the animals could be looked at. That's what those generally entail. We had 2 shelter quarantines. We had 5 home quarantines. We had 2 cases for the county at the time. And the live evidence, at the time of this, we had 3. 2 of those have already gone through court, so now we're only holding 1 animal at this time. We had 1 rabies submission, and then we started doing the diverted intakes, and so we had 55 diverted intakes, so that way they didn't end up going into the Animal Service Center. These are our districts. And these are the stray animals that we picked up per district. District 1 was pretty mild for us in March, which is always a good thing. Our big one was District 3, and again, that usually ends up popping up for District 3 around this time due to, again, it getting hot, and as you can see, it's a lot of dogs. That was our hot spot. It's usually District 3 and District 7, but for some reason, District 5 was pretty hot for March. And these are our stray cats picked up by district. And these are our stray dogs picked up by district. And these are our reasons for owner surrenders for March. We had 2 that they just weren't able to keep them on their property. They didn't know what else to do with them, and they didn't want to end up getting fined or anything through us, so they owner surrendered them. We had 5 that were either vicious or livestock attacks. We had 3 that showed aggression, 2 that were injured or sick, 2 that were abandoned and the new landlord didn't want the dogs on the property. 4, there were just too many animals and they had to reduce them. And 1, the new landlord didn't allow pets at the house. And for that, I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Halsey. Are there any questions on the report from the county? The only question I had, and I'm just wondering, as we get through the year, and I know we've had a few of operations in some of the different communities so far. I think one this year. But do we see any change in numbers after we go through and do a sweep in the communities?
In some communities we do, and some we don't. It's kind of hit or miss, and I honestly think it just depends on the people that we're able to actually talk to and have the communication and the education through, because sometimes when we go through, people are working, things like that, and so we're unable to get in contact with some people, but I think the education part's pretty big. I know we go through education, and we do go through that every month. We do track it, so if you'd like, I could give you the March numbers for education next month if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That would be great. I think the only reason I ask is because I'm just, as we start doing more and more engagement, and I'm just kind of curious to see what we've learned as we go through any best practices that we can take to the next, into the next community that we go into. So.
Yeah, we're always trying to look into that. We always have, a lot of education on hand for the officers. I know when I was an officer, I can't say for the officers now because I'm not in the field anymore, but we used to keep packets for people that had a whole variety of things, from spay and neuter to 10 essentials to restraint, from just a wide variety of things. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any other things? Questions, comments? Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board.
Good morning.
Let me see. For the record, my name is Gino Jimenez. I'm the Animal Control Supervisor for the City of Las Cruces. I will present to you our March numbers for 2023. We responded to 521 reported strays. Of those, 255 are GOA, meaning the officer did not have contact with that animal. We were able to apprehend 261, and of those 228 were impounded at the Animal Services Center. 130 were dogs and 98 were cats. We were successful in returning 38 animals back to their owners. Those are animals that never crossed the threshold of the Animal Services Center. We were unsuccessful in returning 15 animals that had some sort of identification. So those identifiable animals were impounded. And we also had a total of 53 identifiable animals. Here is our 3-year comparison for our strays. As you can see, we're slightly on a rise with 521, bringing the total to 1,407 for the year. Here's our 3-year field RTO rate. Again, we did 38 for the month, bringing us to a total of 99 for the year. This graph is really all over the place. You can see that September, October, and November, we were pretty equal for the years in the past. I can't explain why this year is different from the years in the past. Community CAT program. As we all know, this was a new program or a new slide or new report, data collection for this board. What I've tried to do here is show a 2-year comparison. So in 2022 was the first year that we were able to collect a whole year's data. So that is shown in the orange and tan. And then this year is the blue and green. So for March, we responded to 84 calls for cats and traps. And of those, 17 community cats were released back to in that same area which they came. Reasons for owner surrendering animals. This is a huge list this month. 8 dogs, 3 puppies, 3 adults, 5 puppies, the owners could no longer afford. 4 dogs for parvo, 3 dogs for behavioral issues, 2 dogs that had bitten and the owners no longer wanted them, 2 dogs for aggression, 2 puppies did not get along with the owner's older pet, 2 cats the new landlord would not allow in his property. 1 is a dog landlord did not allow again. 1 cat for aggression, 2 dogs for euthanasia. 1 was hit by a car, the other one was suffering from seizures. 1 dog, he was unable to keep it secure. Another dog sick, unable to provide veterinary care. 1 dog for old age. 1 cat was injured, and that owner could not afford veterinary care either. And 1 cat for the owner had a lifestyle change. Here are our reasons we were unable to field RTO. 5, because the chips were not updated. 7, no contact by phone or at the residence. 1, having an El Paso, Texas address. 1 for a registered person no longer owned the dog and did not know who they gave it to or could no longer remember who they had given it to. 1, the owner was arrested. However, their address was in Alamogordo. And finally, 1 chip was registered to the father in Anthony, New Mexico. However, the son, who was the owner, was homeless and he had no phone number. So we had no way of getting that animal back to either party. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Gino. Are there any questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. Good morning, Gino.
Good morning.
Thank you for your presentation. On the 500-plus calls, can you tell me how much time you're spending, each of your officers, on those calls, right? Like you're going and I'm assuming all the work that takes place in that. I would like to see a sort of a breakdown of the number of hours that you're spending on these 500-plus calls, what it entails in terms of when you are successful with the field returns, how much time are you spending on those, and how much time you're spending on educating, right, the community, because you do a lot of that as well, to include the CAT, our TNR program.
Chairman, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, that report is actually in my, in my peak performance report that is given to City Council.
Okay. Haven't seen it yet.
Okay. I do it every month. I
don't see it. We don't see it, right?
Oh, okay.
Councilors? So thank you for informing me. I will be talking to, if there's a way that you can incorporate that in the presentation, I think it is important. I really would like us to move into being less reactionary and more proactive, because it might be that we're just spinning our wheels on things that may not, well, at the end, it doesn't yield like a return on investment. It's just not, I think, helpful. So if I could have that, I think I would better assess what might be the direction that this board needs to take. And although you're with the city manager's office, and I understand that, and I see Lieutenant Whittla out in the audience, I'm just feeling like we see these numbers all the time, and very little you're successful. Although you're successful in these, and we see the numbers, it makes me feel like maybe we need to move in a different direction. I'm thinking, I don't know what that direction is yet, Gino, but if you could give me what those peak performance measures are, I think it would be helpful. And then my next question is around when I see the unsuccessful attempts and you give us that list, I'm wondering if we could work with the Animal Services Center, because every Monday they're presenting to council. I don't know if they present to the county, but they're presenting to council, and there's an education component to that. And right now we have learned so much about TNR. It's been really fantastic, but not only is it being, that council's being educated, but the public, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering if some of these topics you and our Animal Services Center, Amy, she does a wonderful job, and please say that to her, Bernice and Dr. Haddon. She is really doing a fabulous job educating community about that. But I'm wondering around things like, okay, an individual can afford treatment or food. There are programs out there that I'm not quite sure that folks are aware of. So maybe that collaboration, and I see Jean out in the, hi Jean, it's been a long time, but I see Jean and the group that they organized, right, kind of bringing everybody together. I'm feeling there's some siloing still. If we can have some conversations and just be better equipped in terms of how we're educating community in some of these areas, maybe we'll be more successful. I don't know, Gino. Maybe it's a shot in the dark, but something worth maybe doing some small experiments around.
Okay. Chairman, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll answer both questions for you.
Okay.
So number one, on their stray calls. Going back through memory, because I don't have my report in front of me, I know that our response time is within 14 minutes. So when an officer puts himself or herself on that call to respond to a stray call, it's taking him or her 14 minutes to get to that call, to that area. Mm-hmm. Per our SOP, the officers are required to search the area for a minimum of 7 minutes. That's just a minimum. We start off in the center of where that call came in and then expand our search radius for that call. Within 7 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, if the officer hasn't come in contact with that stray animal, more than likely we're not going to. It's moved on, because that call could have came in at, let's just say, for example, 8 o'clock, but the officer was already on other calls. So they're not actually responding to it till 8:30.
Sure.
But once they get there, they're spending that 7 to 10 minutes on that call trying to find that dog. This is something that is throughout the nation. 50% of reported stray calls we're not making contact with that. That's across the board. That's with Albuquerque, that's El Paso, that's Dallas, that's Tucson. That's across the board. In some areas and some jurisdictions, they have actually stopped ACOs from responding to stray calls. However, our state statute says that we must. So we do that. I don't know how those other agencies got away with it, because it becomes a public safety issue if you don't respond to that call, because what if? There's always that what if, that we don't respond to that stray and it ends up mauling or biting or causing some other injury. So at least we're making the effort, and we're successful in 50% of the time, rather than 0 if we take that out of the ordinance. Going back to your educational questions, before COVID, we were doing at least 3 presentations a month on educational in elementary schools, which is our focus, our target. We were doing presentations at like the Old Navy Safety Days, National Night Out, all these other places. But that was before COVID. During COVID, we really cut down on our services so that we wouldn't expose citizens. We weren't exposing ourselves to citizens that may have been COVID positive, and vice versa. So our services really, really went down for that. Then there was a loss of manpower that I had. I am staffed for 8. During COVID, I was down to 4. Thankfully, as a matter of fact, on Monday, I am fully staffed now. I got 2 officers that I need to train, and I project that within the next month and a half, they'll be out on their own responding to calls independently. With that, I hope to bring those programs back that were cut during COVID.
Good.
As a matter of fact, it was good seeing Selena here, because she was one of the presentations that we did during COVID. We did the Cruces Cool Cat event at La Llorona Park with her. So that was one of the few events that we did, educational events that we did during COVID.
Sure.
Tuesday, we started out again. We had a Cub Scout presentation at Hillrise Elementary. So we're starting.
Yes, I see.
My priority this year is to really get my officers trained up so that they learn the job initially, and then with my more seasoned officers, get them back into the schools and doing those presentations, because we feel that we make more of an impact at the elementary school age. But not saying that we can't come to a community event, like you said earlier, your district open houses or district meetings. Absolutely, we would love to be invited to those so that we can let the constituents know what services we can provide for them, or what, maybe clear up some confusion as to what actually animal control does.
Gino, thank you. I really appreciate that and your vision, hearing what your goal is for the coming year. I'm just asking, and I think it's great. Please do it. I think anytime we can educate the community about what you do and the various issues that we're encountering and how to address them is excellent. I'm just asking for you to partner with Amy and maybe start moving. And I don't know what Clint's vision is about the other types of training that it is going to be made available there, but I know she's just done a bang-up job. The things that I'm learning from her and what they're presenting is excellent, and I just think there's a partnership opportunity with what you're seeing, and hopes that maybe you can tag team it. I'm not sure, but maybe that's just a different way that we get information out. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Chair Sanchez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Are there any other comments, questions for Supervisor Jimenez? I just had and this might be to the board as a whole, and because I think 500 calls is a huge number, and I think that's exactly where Mayor Pro Tem was going. At least I think was, the amount of resources it takes to respond to 500 calls, and then half of them are gone on arrival, and then even then, out of the ones that are still there, I mean, it's still the 38 is still a pretty good amount that you're getting from those that you do get when you're there. But I'm just wondering, and it just is just something that the Mayor Pro Tem kind of pointed out, was the education that comes from reporting the reports that that the City Council gets. So I'm just wondering, because I know this is, I promise I'll get to where I'm going here. You talk on education through the schools, because obviously the kids are huge advocates for that. But yes, it made me think, is there any other ways that we can educate the community, whether it be through Facebook, podcasts? I don't know, because I'm just trying to figure out what's a good digestible way that our community can take in information, and that throughout the county, so that they know what they can do, whether it be updating microchips, so that I mean, that would have been, if you could have had, I think I saw something like eight of them, or there was 8 or 10 of them that didn't have microchips that were updated. I mean, just something small like that adds up through the year. But I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out, and I'm definitely open to figuring out. We have so many of the usual ways that we reach out through radio, through I would love to hear even from the community if there are ideas on how we might be able to reach them in different media outlets, because there's so many different ways that we can communicate these days. I don't have an answer, but I'd love to hear, to see if there's anything we can do.
Chair, I think, again, pre-COVID, we were doing exactly what you were talking about, and it's just a matter of us getting back into our routine. We do work closely with the city's PIO office. As a matter of fact, a public PSA went out this week in reference to we call them hot dogs. Big dogs left in cars during the warm season, like at the mall, at Walmart's, Albertsons, stuff like that. So I think it's just a matter of pushing that information through the city PIO, and maybe updating our webpage, giving everybody that information so that they can get those PSAs.
Okay, thank you. And for Councilor Flores, I see her.
Yes, it's an excellent idea to get the word out as much as possible, but you did mention that you attend community meetings, and I presumably, I know that city councilors have community meetings in their respective districts. Mm-hmm. So maybe, I know Commissioner Sanchez frequently has meetings that I see advertised in the bulletin. And so we'll be sure to advertise or contact you. I don't know. We set up these meetings, and I guess our community outreach person can contact you to see what your availability is, and then you can present at 6 districts. And
Absolutely.
I know my district has, it's in the East Mesa, has a good turnout of people who attend. So thank you for sharing that you go out to the community, and thank you for your work. I really appreciate it, Gino. I think you're overburdened. When Mayor Pro Tem asked for how many hours you spend out there, I turned to Mary Lou, to Ms. Ward, and I said, ooh, that's a lot of work, but you already have those numbers, so we can see how difficult your task is. So, but thank you. And Mr. Chair, I beg to be dismissed. I have a conflict. I have another meeting, Finance Committee, so I'll be rooting for us.
Thank you, Councilor Flores.
Chairman, and just to respond to Board Member Flores' question, I think it was April 4th, we were invited to Councilor Aveita's community meeting in the O'Papin Center, Franco Bryan Papin Center, so we were there as well. But again, to the councilors, the city councilors that are on the board, reach out. We will be happy to present at your next meetings, community meetings.
Thank you, Councilor. Ms.
Sorry.
Ward.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go, I was going to go Ms. Ward, and then I'll come, or did you want to add to us?
I was actually going to add to this and say I'm hoping, and I'll talk to Clint at the Animal Services Center when I have my community meetings, I'm hoping to make them a little bit less talking and more doing, so I'm going to see if we could potentially have like a microchipping event as part of my community meetings. So then, since it seems like microchips are a big part of that, so I'm just trying to think, even not putting more work on you, but maybe long-term saving you work, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Corn. Ms. Ward, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to point out, and thank you, Gino, on the report, and thank you, Brian. In regards to the stray numbers of animals reported, that's just the reported responding stray number of animals. That's not including the other types of calls that the officers respond to. So in all, there's the response to other calls. So those numbers go up tremendously of what the officers respond to.
And if I may, sir, in response to Board Member Ward's statement, during COVID, we responded because, again, like I said, we reduced our services. We responded to about 12,000 calls for those 2 years. Before that, we were up to like 15,000 calls. Now that we're fully staffed and all the COVID restrictions have been lifted, we anticipate going back up to 15, 16, 17,000 calls now, calls for service. And again, like Board Member Ward said, it includes care and maintenance, cruelties, snakes, livestock, follow-ups, which could be a phone call, everything. So we average about 15,000 calls a year.
That's a huge number.
Yes.
So thank you, and thank you for pointing that out. I know as we've had discussions, I think we've seen both on the city and the county that the staffing has been a particular challenge.
Yes.
And having to service such large areas and be there, like you said, as you mentioned earlier in your presentation, to be there after a report, it's almost impossible. So for everything that both from the county and the city, thank you to all your teams. But
yes.
So if there's other ideas, I would love to understand it, both whether, wherever they're coming from, because if we can find ways to just continue to think out of the box and try, I know for us on the county side, I would love to be able to try things that, if they're just different and seeing how they work. If they don't work, then we take some lessons learned and we try something else new. But it's such a big, I know animals is one of the hot topics, and when I do have my public meetings, and that's why I'm appreciative that we always have someone from animal control at the meetings, because I assume, as you mentioned, and it sounds like it's hot topic here in the city as well.
And the credit absolutely goes to the officers out in the field. They're the ones that do those reports. I just gather the information, put it together for this report, but they're the ones out in the field doing all the work, so the credit goes to them.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 5C, which is shelter statistics and activities and the 2022 annual report. I don't know if Dr. Haddon or Bernice will be presenting.
Yes, Dr. Haddon will attempt to. Okay.
We appreciate you so much for doing this. I know it.
I'll find the right where to be. Okay, I am Dr. Haddon, Medical Director at Animal Services Center. Sorry about that. I'm filling in for Executive Director Clint Thacker. So our population at the center continues to go up. 2023 is 423. I did the calculations late last night and early this morning. It's about 23% increase on our populations, which goes along with the roughly 23% increase in intakes for 2023. The intake methods, owner surrenders, we still get, I feel like, a significant amount in this community. Returns, the seized and welfare holds, those are through the, obviously, city and county. Strays that come in by the public are the 16.6%, and the ACOs bring us the most, as it should be. The born in care, we try to really limit those. Those are all animals that come in pregnant, that whelp or queen prior to us getting them out to rescue or into surgery. We try real hard not to have that happen. The March returns, the reasons for the returns are dogs' behavior problems, to other pets. The owner's pets weren't compatible with the new ones. That's why they were returned. That one was a hard one for us to verbalize so that we understand what we're trying to say. And cats' behavior problems, and the same, other pets not compatible with the new incoming pet. So the adoptions were returned. Diverted intakes, this is where the front staff talks to folks coming in with animals and gives them options. Sometimes it's a surrender to foster. They still surrender it to us, but they take it home and they keep it. Whether it's an owned animal or a stray animal that they find, it goes back home with them. It doesn't come into the center. They do eventually come in. We don't know when. We haven't figured out how to track that yet. We're working on it. So our March outcomes, the numbers are going up for, I believe, all categories, but the percentages are down because the intakes are up. So we're getting there. Adoptions is 18.9%. Well, you guys can read the slide. So community cats and euthanasias. The euthanasia number, I believe, went up a lot because we have parvo. Parvo comes in from the outlying communities. These animals, if they break with parvo within 7 to 10 days of intake, we say that parvo came in from the community, okay? We have no facility to house these guys, so if it's one of a litter of 7 that get sick, we have to let them all go. We can't keep the other 6 anywhere where they can't potentially contaminate the rest of the population. So that I think that's a lot of where that number comes from. So our live release rate also has dropped a little bit at 72.5%. Our transfers, our rescue partners, they're wonderful. We couldn't do this without them. The ones that have pulled the most just in March, I mean, the small ones, they all add up. The Two Hearts, Two Paws, the Animal Rescue League from El Paso, Cruz Crusaders is in Arizona, and oftentimes they help by coming to get their animals. That gets the transporting off of us. Halo, they're in Arizona also. And Shepherds Beyond Borders, they pull and take animals to foster, and then they transport their animals out also, which is a huge relief for us. The March euthanasia reasons, as I stated earlier, the biggest number comes from medical parvo, no treatment. We can't treat any of them. We just don't have the facility to keep them separate right now. So there's a lot. Then the respiratory signs and the aggressive dogs, those are all the big numbers. Surgeries, March surgeries are down a little bit, which I didn't notice until I looked at this, so I will go back and address that. And we'll get them back up. So our goal has been 400 a month, and I know that's pushing it, but that's what I want to be able to do. And we have been short surgeons, so but we're working on it. Of the March surgeries, 66 of them were TNRs, 32 adoptions, 62 shelter or fosters, and 14 others. But year to date, we've done 829. Our volunteers, also, we couldn't do what we do without our volunteers. We have 300 volunteers, a total of 524 hours in March. They help do the dog walking. That's how the dogs get out of their kennel. And they also support the cats. They come in and help the kennel staff take care of the cats. Among other things, all the off-sites, we always have volunteers come to there. Our visitors in March dropped down just a little bit, not much. Our webpage views up a little bit. And we are trying, and this has been over the last year, we're reaching out with social media. We're doing TikTok, Instagram, all those things that I have no clue about, but they do them. We had input from fosters asking for us to get into Instagram, and we finally got the right people on it, and they're everywhere. They do everything. And the Facebook views are up in March also. Upcoming events, one of our offsites, it's Happy Panda. It's on May 6th. I also wanted to mention here on we've been invited to some of the county cleanup things. I forget what they're specifically called.
Operation Community Sweep.
Operation Community Suite. Thank you. And we've been to one, and we're planning on going to several throughout the year, providing vaccines, microchip, and educational material. It's Saturday mornings in some of the outlying areas. So we're trying that to see what difference it makes, because these outlying areas that we've chosen to go to is the intake from those areas oftentimes are the ones bringing in the disease. So we're trying to make those vaccines available. Okay. Our pets of the week from Amy, Crash the cat, and Rapunzel the dog. And I believe, yep. All right, that's our March stats. If y'all have questions, I will attempt to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Haddam. Yeah, I think you did a marvelous job stepping in, so thank you for doing that. Are there any questions, Ms. Ward? Please.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for participating in those events with the county. We all appreciate that. It's very crucial to the constituents of the county to have that out there, and that's consistent with the community sweeps. That is kind of something that we used to have years back with the ACES project. That's kind of the same concept, where the officers go in door to door prior to those cleanup events and educate with the codes and animal control officers, community development, planning and zoning, that type of thing, and educate on any violations. And then they come back a week and a half or 2 weeks later with the resources, with the roll-offs, with the, the partnerships with the shelter and whatnot, provide those communities with those resources. So it's real important for those constituents to have access to that. So we really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. County Manager Macias.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, on behalf of the county, I'd really like to thank you, Dr. Haddon, for that effort. I was unaware that we were coordinating with you with that effort. I would like to have a follow-up discussion, not here, but in terms of what you're observing in terms of the potential diseases that are coming from animals that are in the county. I would like to have that follow-up discussion.
Okay,
Thank
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Dr. Haddon. Thank you. I know that this probably provokes some anxiety a bit, but
Not my comfort zone.
I know it is. I know. I've known you a while now, and so, but I appreciate it. You do such a wonderful job, and the perspective from being the medical director, bringing it to the board, I think is one that's very important. So I hate to even suggest it, but maybe quarterly you come and sort of talk about the diseases and the surgeries and the things that you're seeing.
Yes.
It would really bring just a different lens that we don't normally see. I think would be helpful.
Yes, it's on my list.
Okay.
I have several. I'm trying to figure out how I can bring more than just numbers, a better perspective of what we are accomplishing with the funds that y'all provide and the things that we want to do. We want to do more, but we're limited. So I do want to bring something like that. I'll become an agenda item at some point, and
We'd
I'll
love
share.
it. We'd love to incorporate you as a standing agenda item,
Okay.
but not where it takes so much time for you. Even if you do it by Zoom, we're sort of, working with that. And you don't even have to leave your office. You can do it from there, and we'd love to hear from you.
I wouldn't be able to do it from the office.
okay.
There's people in and out all the time.
got
Dogs
it.
barking.
Well, some space,
but
very quiet space.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. Any other questions? Mr. Macias.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Haddon, forgive me, but could you reverse the names of the two animals? I'm struggling with Rapunzel with no hair. And
Right.
That looks more like Crash, and the cat looks more like Rapunzel. And since I have to read a script at each of the county commission meetings related to encouraging adopting these animals, could you Photoshop, if you don't switch the names, can you Photoshop the dog to have long flowing hair?
Me personally, no, I can't, but I bet we have someone on staff that could. We'll see what we can do for you.
Well, and if not, I'm going to have a picture taken of you.
Oh,
And then you can be under
Oh,
the
boy.
Rapunzel name.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Macias. Is there a, wait, oh, I see the mic. Is that you? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, Ms. Dino. I wasn't sure which mic I was going on. Thank you. Sorry about that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Doctor, I just wanted to make sure that I understood. So you mentioned that with respect to parvo, the limitations for the quarantine or in our current facilities. So once we have the medical facility operating as a standalone building, will that protocol be able to be changed?
Yes. It'll depend on how many we can hold. I have to find the right kennel and have the staff. That has to be dedicated staff. I can't have staff taking care of them and then going to general population and taking care of them because of the cross-contamination. So, but yes, that is the plan, that we're going to split some of these folks up. And I think that we could probably get live outcomes for anywhere from 70 to 80% of these parvo puppies that we put down. Because again, we put down the sick one and the entire litter. And that's really hard for us because they're asymptomatic at that time. But we just, for the greater good, we have to. But yes, that's top of my list.
Okay, thank you
Once
so
I get
much.
it.
And I know we had a question at council on Monday related to the operating expenditures for the medical facility once we are able to utilize it as such, and just the need for clarifying within the FY24 budget, what were the assumptions associated with that medical facility. So I think we'll be coming with or asking you for some more information so that we can provide that to the counselors.
Yes, and I've spoken with Clint about I've limited what we do treat financially wise, and I have big plans to be able to do more, but I have to make sure that we have the finances for it. So finances,
Appreciate that.
staff, and facility. Wow.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Leon. Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez.
Yes, I wanted to point out two things. One, amazing work on the Instagram and TikTok and all that stuff. Just seeing those numbers rise means that there's a lot of attention going to the Animal Services Center, which is really great. I am currently scrolling through the Instagram feed right now and TikTok. It's great. I love that kind of stuff. Second off, there was on the euthanasia report, I just have a question on the designation of Texas, I'm guessing, and how we come into those. TX means, oh, what?
Treatment. TX is medical shorthand for treatment. That's my bad.
So what's the difference between the medical parvo non-treatment euthanasias and the medical, where's that at? Medical parvo treatment.
So the medical parvo treatment means they were treated, and those may be adoptions that we treat as an outpatient that end up not making it, so they come back and we euthanize them. The non-treatment are those that we test, they're positive, and we euthanize.
Okay, so with that being said, thank you for the clarification. I literally thought it meant Texas.
Oh.
So my bad, but with that being said too, if you did get that space for to treat parvo medically within the services center, we would then probably see those numbers rise with the medical non-treated parvo lowering.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
cool. Thank you for
absolutely.
that clarification.
Yeah, and we did go through the same thing, and we'll see it on the annual report with distemper last year. You know, when we had our big distemper, we can't hold them. We could probably get them, but we don't have the physical space to hold them for the extended period of time that you need to for distemper. So.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments, questions for Dr. Haddon?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're on to committee reports. So, and I know Mr. Leon had to step out, but we'll move on to the finance. So come on up.
We have the annual report.
Sorry, do we still have the annual report? I apologize. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to.
Okay, though I didn't.
Okay.
I was going to let you off a little easy.
We'll go quickly. We got all the questions answered previously, so we'll just zoom right through this. And y'all have my understanding. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, I think Clint saved this for me, just so I could practice presenting. I'll tell him thank you later. Okay, the annual report, it's a little late in coming, but we're finally here. So our intakes, the city had 4,049 from obviously different areas, primarily the unrestrained from animal control and the unrestrained from the public were the highest numbers. The county had a few more, 4,736. Again, the distribution is roughly the same, the unrestrained from public and the ACOs with the highest numbers. So our total combined intake for 2022 is 8,869. And that is going up. It's going back up to getting closer and closer to pre-COVID numbers. And we are trying very diligently to stay within our capacity for care. Our capacity for care it's not really a number. There's a lot of different aspects to that. And it's based on the type of housing that we have for these individuals. Within our mission, it states that our goal is for the most humane housing and handling of these animals. And so as numbers go up and our facility doesn't get bigger, and even with the new facility, that's not going to, quote unquote, add on that number of animals that we can house. Okay, I hope everyone understands that. So our monthly intake in 2022, it continues to go up in the summertime. Summer and fall, it seems to go up, and we're just getting there. Species intake for the year, the majority was dogs and then cats. Then they have to throw in a couple different chickens, roosters. The reptiles, I don't know what they were. We had a hedgehog, rabbits, birds, a little bit of everything. Last year, we even had some tortoises come in. They were stray tortoises. I don't know. We learned how to microchip a tortoise. They're strong. So the outcomes, this slide, the percentages are incorrect. It has been corrected now, just not on the presentation. So what's on the web page for the annual report will have the right ones. So the correct numbers are euthanized is 23.6%, rescues were 21.8%, adoptions also 21.8%. Community cats at 1,295 was 13.7%. Return to owner is 10.8%, over 1,000 animals, which I think is great. Owner requests euthanasias, 6.7. And then I was just going to read them if they were different, but expired in shelter was 0.7%, in foster care 0.6%. And those, the ones that expire in foster, are usually neonate kittens, typically. Sometimes the neonate puppies, but the neonate kittens are really hard to keep. And then the admin missing. I'm going to go back to the center after this and find out what that is. Adoptions are going up again. I was looking at this morning, and I was going to go back and see what we did in 2019 that made our adoption numbers so high. And it may be just relative to intake, I don't know, but I thought, well, maybe we can do what we did then and get more adoptions. One of the numbers that I wanted to bring when I come is our adoptions per capita, you know, as well as stray per capita and things like that, to just kind of put things in perspective. Okay, canine feline adoptions. Our transfers are picking up. We're getting there. It hurt a little bit last year because of the distemper, not just here, but nationwide. There were places that had never seen distemper that were having it bad. So the live release rate for 2022 in cats was 76% and dogs 72.6%. I feel like I'm just reading the slides, so I can speed through. So the overall release rate was 74.6. Again, it's affected by our inability to treat, okay, both distemper and parvo. And here's our euthanasia breakdown. The respiratory signs, no treatment. And space medical. The space medical is if we need space, we're choosing an animal with a medical issue to create space for a healthy pet. Again, in 2022, the euthanasias went up a little bit. Again, I think because of the distemper. Our public services and outreach. Our surgeries for the year were 4,474. My goal is 5,200. We'll get there at some point. Visitors, 17,000. Facebook views came down a little bit for the year, holding our own for the website. And here's all our Instagram, Snapchat, I hadn't thought of them, and TikTok. And the person that I believe does the majority of these is our volunteer coordinator. She's the one that does all the videos, and she also works with the foster coordinator. We're trying to get fosters to put things out there also to promote their pets for adoption. And these are the stats for the 2 drive-through clinics that we had last year, and we're having another one is scheduled for June 3rd that has been confirmed, June 3rd of this year at Field of Dreams. These are some of our folks that are regular volunteers that we see all the time, that even I know their names. They're great. Yeah. And so this is the mission, and what I started to try to quote: we strive to meet the highest standards of humane animal care and husbandry. and to promote the responsible pet ownership through public education and outreach. We are working, the volunteer coordinator also is doing some of these public education. She takes one of my technicians out and goes to the elementary schools. They've gone to a couple to try to reach out to them, okay? And that's all.
Thank you,
And I
Dr.
don't know
Hammond.
who that is.
Councilor Corn?
Thank you. And I, of course, in true Politico fashion, I have more of a comment, so don't worry, it's not a question. But I just want to point out, I mean, I think this is a really powerful thing, especially if we think about we face fundamental conflicts in our jobs about what is our communal responsibility, what is individual responsibility, what do we pay for, what do we expect others to pay for, what do we hope the community pays for. And I think slide 10, which talks a little bit about transfers, I just want us to, and I'm not using this as a moment to grandstand, but I kind of am as a point. That is, we look to at least 1 in 5 animals that the shelter deals with is transferred to another community organization that's a nonprofit. And contrastively, a number of the animals that we end up not being able to take care of are in that situation because they have not been properly vaccinated, right? So I point this out because this, in the big picture, one, our state anti-donation clause prevents us from doing things like just vaccinating everyone all the time, and I would again critique our state anti-donation clause because it undermines some of our collective goals. And two, I just want to point out that within our community, we use public dollars to do everything that we possibly can to help address these issues, but we also rely significantly on the generosity of spirit of a lot of people who do things. And I know that transfers sometimes have a cost to the Animal Services Center as well, but typically where we're transferring to is also deflecting the responsibility to a further place in the community where people have to sort of step up and be a part of that community. So I take this moment to interrogate our role and our capacity to change something when it's limited by how we distribute goods and services, who we expect to take responsibility for things, and I'm not saying that individuals don't have a responsibility, but I think we have to change how we provide services to upstream changes, because otherwise we'll always be in this situation and looking to communities to support us. And so I say this sort of in the bigger critique of what we do, and also the bigger gratitude of what you do at the Animal Services Center, which is doing the best that we possibly can, given the restrictions that exist on both ends of the work that we do. And I urge us to think about, at every opportunity, changing those dynamics of where in the stream we're intervening, because putting to sleep a bunch of puppies because they're in a parvo litter is 100% preventable. And we could do more of that if we didn't have some of the constraints that exist in our community. And so I just urge all of us to think about how we use our political positions to change some of those dynamics of how we fund animal care and control in our community, and also just give gratitude to you all for what you do, and what a tax it is on you as individuals, and how important and how much I know that you care and want to make a change in that. So I'll stop grandstanding, but I think it's an interesting way to think about how public money is spent or not spent, and we're not spending it efficiently, frankly, and we're looking to other folks to take responsibility for something that we should do better at, I believe. Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any other questions, comments? Anybody else want to know what a pocket pet is?
It fits in your pocket.
Is that like the hedgehog that you had mentioned? And okay.
Yes.
And I'll take the second, Counselor. I completely agree with you in how we can approach things. I know that's obviously, I think one big piece of the anti-donation is being able to reach out to those in the indigent community and working through. I think one of the things we worked with SNAP, but we need a bigger swath here that we need to be able to work on. So completely concur with your sentiments and your comments.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Haddon.
Okay. Now I'll go away. Okay.
Okay, so now we're on to the Finance Committee report. Ms. De Leon.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. So the Finance Committee met last Thursday, and we reviewed the quarterly financials with Animal Service Center staff. And so just a reminder, we're coming to you all quarterly with the reports, but on a monthly basis, we're still reviewing them within the Finance Committee. So today we have Liam Beasley with us from the Financial Services Department to present. Thank you so much, Liam.
Thank you, Barbara. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, other members of the board. As she mentioned, I'm Liam Beasley. I'm a senior accountant within the city's finance department, and I'll be going over the financials through March 31st. On the first slide, we have the highlights for the statement of net position. At March 31st, cash was $3,449, receivables were $664,000, and this gives total assets of $667,540. And the reason the cash is so low and the receivables is so high, and this, I believe, was discussed in last week's Finance Committee meeting as well, is that there were 5 months of billings between the months of November through March. These get sent to the county for their portion of the annual funding of the center, and these haven't been paid, and it was determined that they were being sent to either an incorrect inbox or an outdated inbox, and so they weren't just being processed. The county is aware the city reached back out and resubmitted the invoices, and so they're going to be following up and making sure those get paid soon. And so that's just why the cash would be so low. And then moving down to liabilities, they totaled to $115.5 thousand. The revenue collected in advance was $251.7 thousand, and the fund balance was $300,000. And then moving on to the change in net position, the total revenues through March were $3,007,000, expenditures $2,993,000, and with transfers out to the capital fund for animal services of $15,750, the net change in fund balance was a decrease of $1,353. Then here's the same information, the change in net position, but with the budget to actual comparison. So if we look at total revenues, the total budget was $4.2 million, and then with the March actuals of just over $3 million, that ended up being 71.9% of the budget. Then with the expenditures, the total budget was $4.3 million, and with the actuals of $2.99 million, that ended up being 69.3% of the budget. And the budget parameter for the end of March, which would be 3/4 of the way through the year, would be 75%. And this slide will show the month-to-month revenue and expenditures. Just a few notes, the decrease from January to February is reflective of some capital spending that occurred during the month of January for the new center. And then the increase from February to March is because there were 3 pay periods that posted in March. So it's just how the biweekly payroll, kind of 3 of them just happened to land within the month of March, and normally there's only about 2 per month. Then finally, here's a breakdown of those total expenditures. Of the $2.99 million, 52% went to salary, 18% to benefits, temp services 1%, repairs and maintenance 0.5%, services 15%, supplies 6%, insurance 2%, other 1%, and then capital was 5%. And if you have any questions, I can stand for those.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Are there any questions? Councilor Corn.
I'm just weighing in all the time. Board Member Macias, I think that Rapunzel may have been trapped in a tower before she got to the Animal Services Center, and that's where her name came from, if that helps with context at all.
No, I just have a difficult time for a dog that's follically challenged to be called Rapunzel. You know, I'm struggling with it. And that means that she was tortured in the tower and there was shaved head.
You know, I don't know, but it's the only logical thing I can think of that isn't giving her a wig, which I also support, but, you know.
Thank you, Counselor. Are there any other questions for Mr. Beasley? All right. Thank you, Mr. Beasley.
Thank you.
For the update. All right, we're on to 5D2, which is the Executive Committee update. The Executive Committee met, it was with Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, myself, and Mr. Thacker, and there was not a lot of a long discussion in our meeting this month. It was mainly geared to the discussions around the budget, some of the requests and some guidance based off of the feedback that we've been receiving from the board. But all of the discussion was around working on that budget. So, but that was essentially it for our executive committee meeting. So then, if there are no questions on that, we'll move on to our facilities. And I know Mayor Pro Tem Gandara is not here, but I do see Ms. Vasconcelos. And I know we have, this was under a sub-item under this, which is the new ASCMV facility artwork progress.
Right.
Good morning. My name is Ceci Vasconcelos, for the record. I'm the Public Art Coordinator in the Quality of Life Department. And thank you for inviting us to come here and give you an update. I'll start with reviewing the project first and then show you where we are. Okay. So City Council approved the design concept recommended by the City Art Board and created by artist Vito DeBari. Mr. DeBari's art piece is titled Sun Shelter. The artist was inspired by the Animal Services Center logo, using the same color palette that brands the center, and the cutouts are influenced by elements found on the center's website. This slide shows the scale of size. The sculpture is 9 feet tall. It's made of steel, which is laser cut with patterns like cats, dogs, bones, fish, and other elements. The color is powder coated onto the sculpture. It weighs about 800 pounds. And the maintenance will be relatively simple. An occasional wipe down or gentle power wash should keep it clean and bright. The location of the sculpture is the corner of Baton Memorial West and Rinconada Boulevard. The first photo is standing at the location facing east. The second photo is facing west. And the last photo is curbside at the facility facing Highway 70. And you can see it's pretty visible by the traffic that's passing by and on both the streets and the highway. The utility post marked in red is for electrical access, if we add lighting later on. And I pass by there all the time at night, and it's pretty well lit, so it may not be needed, but we'll reassess that once it's installed. So the City Art Board released a call for artists for a freestanding public art sculpture for the new Animal Services Center in early 2021. An art selection committee was designated for the project, and they reviewed the 139 submissions that were received. 3 top finalists were chosen and invited to present their proposals to the committee. The presentations took place at a public meeting held at City Hall in July 2021. The design proposal created by DeBari scored the highest, and the selection committee recommended the design to the City Art Board, and they approved it for presenting to City Council. We also presented the design to the Quality of Life Policy Review Committee and to this board, of course. The design concept with a previously approved budget of $68,000 was approved by City Council at a regular meeting on October 18th, 2021. The committee scored the finalists based on project criteria. The call for artists stated that the piece should serve as a beacon and needed to be visible from Rinconada Boulevard, Baton Memorial West, and Highway 70. It also asked that the art piece reflect the services of the center and engage the community and Animal Services Center staff. This is the sculpture, and it is finished. And I haven't shown this photo to anyone, so you are the first. I hope you feel special. So it was fabricated in Texas, and it's ready to be transported here. As soon as we have a concrete base set in place for it. The artist is working with a sculptural engineer to get stamped drawings for that, and we have a contractor ready to go when they have those drawings, which they need to install it. So we're hoping, if all things go according to plan, we should have have it in place by early May. Done, completed, and as soon as we close out the contract with the artist, we can start planning an unveiling, and I really hope that we can do that at the same time that we do the ribbon cutting for the new facility. That would be the best case scenario. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilor?
I just wanted to say, definitely as you're planning will be the second, as you know, of course, public art project in my district. So please let me know how I can support it through promoting and within the district, and also and whatever support you need, please let me know, and we can lay it on thick to make sure that we get lots of folks there to see it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So where in Texas were they making this?
Chairman and board, I don't remember exactly. No, I really don't remember.
Okay, I was just curious, and I guess this would be a TX sculpture for Commissioner. Sorry, couldn't resist. So, very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing this, and I hate to admit that in all the times that we've seen the plans for this, I never picked up that all the shapes inside of the designs were even smaller designs. So thank you for for explaining that and seeing it, because now I can. Like I said, my eyes are finally open to it, and so like I said, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I had never noticed that. So it's very cool. I'm excited. Actually, and Councilor Corrin, I'm excited that the initiative that the city has put to be able to have some of these works of art that are going to be placed in city facilities. So thank you, and thank you, Ms. Vasconcelos, for the update.
Sure, you're very welcome, and please don't be embarrassed, because that's kind of the beauty of this piece, is you don't notice everything right off the bat until you get up close. So.
Awesome, thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to the next item, let me apologize because I have to leave to an 11 o'clock meeting, but Ms. Ward will substitute for me. I just also wanted to bring to the Commission's attention, if you weren't already aware of it and addressed it earlier, but today's Commissioner Sheljo Hernandez's birthday. And so I really want to encourage everyone to show him a little bit of love today. Speaking from experience, a young man benefits from positive encouragement by others. So I hope that occurs for him, and I want to compliment him for having come to work today where most people would have taken the day off.
And miss a day with us? Exactly. Thank you, County Manager Macias. Appreciate it. And I will turn it over to Commissioner Sheljo Hernandez. I know he has some updates from Mayor Pro Tem Gandara on the Facilities Committee. So.
Yes, first off, thank you. Yes, it's my birthday. I actually asked Commissioner Sanchez if it was normal for my lower back to hurt this morning, and I was told yes. So I'm definitely feeling that age today. But Mr. Chair, the Facilities Committee did meet, and I do have some notes from that meeting. We were made aware of the access door reader issue, and we actually did get an email from Anthony Garcia. He said the readers needed to be replaced and that there's a quote and they're trying to find the money to purchase the card readers that are needed to make it work. So we were made aware of that. We did have an employee's suggestion of handling cleaning protocols in the kennels, working on simplifying the protocols and hanging them in the back of every kennel, I believe, was the recommendation that was brought to our attention. Also looking into dishwasher issues, Ecolab has come out or is coming out. There was an issue with water draining from the machine itself. The new facility will be getting an eye wash station. There is a purchase that has been made and we are waiting to get it installed from my knowledge. And then a lot of shelving ordered for the new facility, computer and blue room for note-taking. Checks prior to euthanasia was something that was brought up due to a prior issue that happened. So I believe that will be something that will be implemented. Meeting was April 6th about the county helping with concrete pour costs. With the labor force and the abilities that we're able to do. I believe that meeting was had with the county and also Clint, so I think we're just waiting on an update on that. And then the rest is kind of just about the artwork. We just had our update, so that's great. But that's everything that the Facilities Committee discussed at the last meeting.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. Are there any questions on the facilities? All right. Very good, then thank you. That wraps up or completes the committee reports. We move on to item 6A, which is under discussion items, which is regarding the plaque for the old ASCMV building mural.
Hello, this is the plaque that will be hung in the lobby of the new facility, correct? And I believe it's a representation of that's in VIC right now. We were informed that we do have to wait until the facility is actually ours before we can hang it, but we do have the plaque and that's where it will go.
Very cool.
Yeah, Bernice Navarro. And this artwork was created by Tracy Jameson, and as most of you do know, it was on the old building, the front of the old building at the top, that was painted across the top of that building. And so on the plaque, it does state, in recognition of the mural artwork that served as the face of the former Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley building.
Great. That's thank you, Ms. Navarro, and I think it's really cool to see the way you're able to put it onto the plaque, and that way it'll be memorialized in the new center. So, all right. Any comments, questions from the board? Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. All right, now we're on to action items. Agenda 7A, Resolution 2023-03 is to accept the fiscal year 22 financial audit report. Mr. Beasley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again for the record, Liam Beasley, accountant with the city's finance department. Our auditor, his name's Chris Gardner from Patillo, Brown and Hill. He's going to be presenting these, and he's actually called in on the line for this meeting, so I'll navigate the PowerPoint for him, and then he will explain his process.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So what I have here is just a summary of the required communication that we did at the exit conference. However, there's been one change, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through the process. So, Liam, if you go to the first slide. This first slide talks about the results of the audit and the reports that we issued. So we issued what we call an unmodified opinion, or as I have in brackets there, a clean opinion. So it's exactly the type of report that you want to receive, and our report states that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with the standards that we have to follow as your auditor. So in essence, this is the highest level of assurance that auditors can give, and this is exactly the type of report that you want to receive. If we go to the next.
Before you jump to the next slide, sorry about that. We just wanted to, for you to state your name again for the record so that we get it on, can hear it clearly.
Sure. My name is Chris Garner, and I was the partner in charge of the audit.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Okay.
Sure. The next slide, and this is where we have a little bit of a change from the exit conference, is in New Mexico, the state auditor requires that we perform what we call a yellow book audit, or as it's referred to on here, a governmental accounting standards audit. In a yellow book audit, we actually have to go above and beyond testing internal controls than what regular auditing standards require. And then the state auditor also under this yellow book audit requires that we do certain testing like procurement, travel and per diem. There's a whole various items that they expand that we test. So what we do is we go through and we test those items, and in this report, what happens is we just spell out what we're doing above regular auditing standards, what they require, and then we talk about the results of our testing. And so when we had the exit conference, we did not have any findings. When we submitted the audit to the state auditor, we ended up with one finding, and I'll talk about that here in just a few slides. But in this report, we're not giving an opinion. We're just spelling out how we're doing above and beyond what regular auditing standards, and then the results of our testing. Like I said, we'll follow up in just a few slides about that. The next slide is talking about difficulties encountered in performing the audit. And as you can see on the slide, the audit went smooth. We did not have any difficulties. And really the whole reason for this particular communication is just to let the board know how are your records being maintained. When we ask questions, are we giving good support? Are we giving good explanations? Is it in a timely manner? And based upon our testing, we were given good responses. We were given good supporting documentation. When purchase orders are supposed to be approved, we didn't have any exceptions. So from the standpoint of what really the standards are trying to accomplish here is just to let you know that your accounting records are being well maintained for your organization. If we go to the next slide, talking about audit adjustments. And so again, the importance and the reason the standards want us to talk about this is to let the board know, are the auditors coming in and changing lots of numbers and making lots of adjustments so that you should be maybe a little bit critical of the numbers as you're given to them throughout the year. But as you can see on this particular slide, we did not have a single adjustment. And so again, the communication that the standards are trying to let you know is that you should feel confident you have a good internal control structure to accumulate the numbers, and so that when the reports are given to the board, you can feel confident that those numbers are accurate. And when we come in as auditors, we did not have a single adjustment to any of those amounts. The next slide is dealing with that particular issue that I talked about earlier. So when we completed the audit 2 years ago, the state auditor has changed how they have audits get submitted to them. It's moved to an electronic process and a website, a portal that the state auditor has. A couple of years ago, well, let me back up one more for just a second. When the state auditor goes through a mandatory contract that they require the city complete with us, there's not separate contracts for all the JPAs of the city. There's only one contract for all 5 audits that have to be done when we complete the city's audit. As a result, there was only one place to upload the financial statements. And a couple of years ago, we actually emailed it to them because there wasn't a separate portal set up for your organization. And when we did that, they said, no, you need to go through and upload it to the state auditor's portal and just do it all 5 entities under the state auditor's particular site that's set up for the city of Las Cruces. So that's what we did this year. And we sent in a couple of requests because the audit wasn't getting reviewed by the state auditor. And finally, about a month ago, they responded and said, well, we don't see your audit. And so I had a lot of correspondence with them talking about the fact of we did exactly what you said, but they stated that because of the amount of documents that were put on their portal, they got dropped off and they weren't there and they could not see them. And thus, we had to have a late audit finding. I tried fighting because we did exactly what they said, and it's really not our fault or your organization's fault that that it got dropped off of their system, but they wouldn't give up their stance. And so just to get it done, we wrote up a finding. There really are no consequences of the finding. Next year it will be removed. Your audit was done, in November, well in advance of the due date, and that will happen again this year. So this will just be a one-time finding in your audit and should be removed next year. I did, when we wrote up the particular finding, I did give the facts on the cause of it and stating that this was really due to technical errors based upon the submission and how the audit is to be uploaded to the state auditor's website. So it was spelled out in the finding just to give the readers context of why it happened. Again, there's nothing that the city did incorrect. Unfortunately, the state audit rule and then the state auditor's office required us to have it because in their mind, they didn't see it until just about a month ago, and they determined that we had to have the finding. So again, when we had the exit, we did not have this. It came as a result of the process that the state auditor does when reviewing your financial statements. The last slide that I have, we go to the next one, is just some financial highlights. And as you can see, over the last few years, the revenues have gone up for the organization. They increased about $400,000 from the prior year, and the majority of that increase is the county contributed $200,000 more, and then charges for services were up $120,000. And you can also see expenditures increased about $1 million, and this is primarily due to an increase in personnel and related personnel cost of about $400,000, and then an increase in service expense of $370,000. And so, even though the expenses went up quite a bit, the revenue still exceeded the expenses. So you did not have a deficit for the year. You still had a positive income during FY22. And with that, I'll open up to any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Are there any questions on the audit finding? I think it's obviously a little frustrating to have had that audit finding, but understand where it came from. But otherwise, I think that there are no questions here, Mr. Garner. So I want to say thank you for you and your team and Mr. Beasley, the support that you all provided as well. So thank you all for the completion of the audit and the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, and so we do need a motion and a second to accept this fiscal year 2022 financial audit report.
I move we accept the audit report.
Thank you, Councilor Corn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second from Commissioner Sheldro Hernandez. Any comments on the motion? Okay, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Board Member Ward?
Yes.
Board Member Coran?
Yes.
Board Member Sheldro Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you, Becky. Very good. Now, so we will move on to public input. If there are any members of the public that are here for input, invite them up to speak now. Not seeing any, so then we'll move on to chair and board comments. Are there any comments from the board? No. I did just have one note, and I think hopefully for the next meeting, I know that we are needing to have start preparations for the evaluation for the director, for Mr. Thacker. And so hopefully we'll have just some kind of preparation, because that'll have to be done, I believe, in our June meeting. So we'll start having, at least kind of having that discussion next month, so we know what to expect going to our June meeting. So otherwise, I think that's the only comment I need to make at this point. Okay, well then if we are done with that, then we'll move on to the last item on the agenda, which is adjournment. So if I can get a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the adjournment. If we can get a roll call, please.
Board Member Ward?
Yes.
Board Member Coran?
Yes. Yes.
Board Member Shaljo Hernandez?
Yes.
Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. All right, then we are adjourned at 11:05 a.m. Thank you all for coming, and happy birthday to Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez.